Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over a topic that I think is very important to cover. Now, it was requested on my main channel, but my main channel is a little bit different than this one, so I'm going to put it on my second channel, which is where you guys are watching it today, okay? We're going to talk about the contributing factors to male loneliness, okay? Male loneliness is unfortunately very common, and I would say even more so than their female counterparts. Men in our society tend to have reasons why they may be struggling with connecting with others. And those things are what we're going to talk about today, okay? And the very first one is that a lot of men have a belief, okay? I'm not saying this is your fault if this fits your category, okay? If anything, I'm saying it's not your fault. They have a belief that they deserve to be alone. Like, genuinely, I have so many patients that quite literally believe this and they don't even think there's something wrong with it. They believe they deserve to be alone, whether it's because they feel like if they get in a relationship, they're going to hurt her, whether they feel like there is no female that will treat them properly, whether they feel like all males are just better being alone, whatever it is, or they feel like they've had so many failed attempts at friendship connections, romantic relationships that they have concluded to themselves, okay, because of this, I deserve to be alone. However, this is a limiting belief, right? In psychology, we call it a limiting belief, a belief that limits you from either exploring, healing, whatever it is. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but this contributes to it. So what do you do if this is the issue where you actually believe you're meant to be alone? Recognizing that there is no truly, in psychology more particularly, you can't really use your past to fully determine the future of your relationships or friendships. What does that mean and why does that help? A lot of human relationship context, right? Friendship, work, whatever it is, there are way too many variables that it's just you. That's the variable, okay? It could be that the town you live in is a certain way. It could be that, I don't know, maybe you look or behave a certain way. Maybe you're more intimidating to folks and you don't even realize that. And I'm not saying it's your fault. Again, maybe because your mother was a certain way, you attract certain females that are a certain way. Maybe your father was a certain way, so you attract certain males in a friendship context that are a certain way. And that cannot necessarily be your fault in of itself, where it's like you're doing something. So often people assign these things that they don't know what's happening as their fault because they want certainty, right? They want to understand, okay, I'm probably just meant to be alone because the uncertainty is what bothers them more. Being more comfortable with the uncertainty that you don't actually know why this is happening can help you to understand that maybe you're not meant to be alone. Maybe tomorrow is the day, or maybe 1 year is, you don't know. And accepting that uncertainty may be beneficial for you, even though it's very hard, right? And also trying to lean into other types of folks. Maybe you always tend to hang out with buddies that have more similar interests to you. Maybe you can try and meet people who maybe they don't have similar interests to you, but maybe they have a similar job to you. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you only hang out with your girlfriend's friends, boyfriends. Maybe you can try and make your own friends, right? Something like that to help. Now, again, if you want to be alone and you want to be independent, that's fine. But when I mean loneliness, I mean it more of like a negative context where maybe you're not so satisfied with that condition. I hope that makes sense, okay? The next one is unfortunately traditional masculine roles. I think a lot of people probably knew this was coming. Now, I do want to say I have nothing against traditional masculine roles. I don't care about traditional roles. I think they can be healthy to some extent. To be honest, I see a lot of relationships, romantic contexts, where traditional roles actually benefit the couple more. And so I don't have anything against traditional roles. I also have no problem if you want to change things around. I don't care, right? But the reason why I bring this up is because there was a research that was recent, 2024, that actually showed that some masculine ideals can actually hurt a man from having connections, right? And that doesn't mean you have to change these things, but maybe just adjust it a little bit in certain contexts. So being stoic or being reliable on yourself, right? Self-reliance, maybe toughness. These types of things can actually discourage men from seeking or maintaining close, vulnerable relationships, which makes them feel a little bit empty. So they may have friendships, but they're just not as vulnerable. Or if you guys have a disagreement, you might not resolve it. Or in general, you just feel like because you're a man, you have to do it by yourself, right? Traditional masculine roles. And you can still be masculine and have some of these attributes if you prefer, but still leaning into certain ways where you can adjust it for the moment, for the context, whatever it is, okay? The next one was research that was kind of recent as well, 2023, where a lot of men, not all men are like this, okay? But some men, I'll say some men, rather a lot of, spend less time nurturing friendships because they are overinvesting in their romantic relationships, or they use their romantic relationships, just like I had mentioned earlier, not on purpose, to maintain contact with other people. So instead of making a friend with a guy who he feels like will be more fitting for him, he makes a friend with his girlfriend's best friend's boyfriend. And their relationship is like them just sitting around and maybe, catching up or just watching football. And that's great, but maybe it doesn't necessarily help him to get out of his isolation. And sometimes what I notice with patients is that he will be sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, okay? But sometimes what happens is a man who has this issue, sometimes it's because his partner might be very reliant on his time and energy. I'm sorry, I'm not saying this like all women are like this and all men are this way. Not at all. So please, I'm not saying that. But sometimes what happens is she may be very over reliant on him. And so he has very little time to himself. And so he's not able to invest in friendships because he's giving a lot of his emotional resources to her, if that makes sense. I see it a lot. Actually, I don't know when I'm going to post this, but my patient I saw yesterday has this issue, and it's hard for him to accept it, but it is true, and he's battling this, right? He wants his alone time, and she keeps wanting more and more and more time, and he keeps setting that boundary, but then he's soft, like not soft in a bad way, but he's soft on her because he cares about her, right? But she keeps crossing the boundary, he sets the boundary, and then they go right back to the same pattern, and he's getting like frustrated and irritable, but he doesn't want to show that around her. Then he pulls away, then she gets upset, and then this whole thing starts happening. And what ends up happening is, who is he neglecting? Himself. He's not having enough room to nurture those friendships. So this contributes to his loneliness because he's isolated with what he's desiring, and she is not understanding that. So if this is happening, I would say set those boundaries and do not let a partner make you adjust if you don't need to, right? Because this is about your mental health. We know a lot about how much male loneliness contributes to other mental health issues. And I'm going to make a separate video on that, but it's also a very dark topic. And so I want to be careful what I post on YouTube and also the research that I show, because some of these things are dark and I don't want anyone to feel very negative about themselves. Okay. The next one is about the mental health dynamics, but in a different context, because sometimes mental health dynamics, in the sense, the loneliness can create some mental health dynamics, but sometimes it's the other way around. So it's like untreated mental health might create more loneliness. Depression's a good example, okay? And I see this a lot with my patients. So I'm going to explain that because that probably was a little confusing. The combination of emotional concealment, right? Those traditional masculine roles we talked about just a little bit, right? Can lead towards a path of social isolation, but we can also see that maybe all of these things are fine, right? Maybe you do express your emotions. Maybe you are, traditionally masculine, but not in a way where it's harming you. And so you're fine in all those ways, but maybe something happened in your life. You lost something. Maybe you got hurt. Maybe you got fired by your job. Maybe you hurt your leg and you can't do all the things you used to do. Maybe you used to be a runner. Whatever it is, maybe you injured yourself. And you're not getting the help that you need mentally, mental health wise, right? Or maybe you don't know that's contributing. So you become very depressed and isolated and you're battling those things. Maybe you still got the help you need with your leg. Your leg is now better, or you're feeling like you got a job, right? You got whatever you needed that was hurting your mental health at the moment. But that trajectory only helped you in a physical sense. You still got the job, so you're stable. Your leg is fine now. However, you're mentally still depressed from that moment, or you're still very anxious, or you haven't moved on from it emotionally, and you don't realize that. So that makes you pull away from social interactions, not because you're blaming anybody, because you're still battling these emotions and you don't know what to do with them. You might not even feel them. You might feel numb. And this contributes to male loneliness. It's really, really common. I see it so often, okay? The next one is, unfortunately, social media, online norms, and expression around masculinity. Now, I'm not a person who's on social media a lot. Surprisingly, I make YouTube videos, but I'm not the type of person who's like on TikTok or watching Instagram. I mean, Instagram Reels, or like posting on Instagram. I'm pretty I guess, low key. I'm not sure what I would say, but I still am aware that masculinity is unfortunately common as like a negative context. And so a lot of men, they feel like their true identity, which is more masculine, typically, they're not allowed to be that way. And so they feel already rejected. And so now they're rejecting themselves. Does that make sense? They feel rejected and they can't be themselves. So they either have to be someone they're not, which is rejecting internally, or they have to pull away from everybody because they feel like if I get to be the person I am, which is maybe not allowed or whatever reason, they may feel there's no point in having human connection because I'm not allowed to be accepted in any shape or form, right? And that is some of the reasons why men might be struggling with loneliness to this day, male loneliness, okay? I get that this video might be a little difficult to follow. I apologize. I'm in between sessions, but I do like making videos, so I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but I hope the video makes some sense, okay? Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.